Hello and welcome to Preacher Life. Well, it has been a little while since I've updated on Bible reading. I don't know that actually anyone is following on the daily reading. I've been commenting, but even if not, I'll offer my thoughts and a little bit of help with reading. You can take it from there, I guess. So, in the morning reading for right now, we just got through 1st and 2nd Chronicles. And if you recall from the previous entry, both 1st, 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles are primarily about the kings of Israel and Judah. And at the end of both of these books is when Israel has been taken captive, as well as Judah, because their kings and leaders and the people led them astray from God. And despite warning them for many years, they did not return to following God. And as a result, he gave punishment that he said would come, that Judah was taken over by Babylon. But as promised, after 70 years in captivity, they were released to go back to Jerusalem and the promised land of Canaan. So we are now in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. And in these books, we read about the return to Israel and rebuilding of the temple, as well as rebuilding the city of Jerusalem. So Ezra 1 begins this way. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth the Lord God of heaven has given to me, and he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? May his God be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is God, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left in any place where he dwells, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, besides their freewill offerings for the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. So it was decreed by King Cyrus, who is the one that conquered Babylon, that the remnant of the Jews, or the Israelites, could return to their homeland. And in the book of Ezra, that is what we read about the people who returned. And they're given a lot by name and what they did when they went there, the different roles. But they were not welcomed by everyone in the land. And there were some who protested the rebuilding of the temple and rebuilding Jerusalem itself. So in part of Ezra, we read about letters to other kings, such as Artaxerxes, and that they at first were hindered from building and had to stop for a while. But then they were allowed to build again. So, even those were opposing God's work, that he got his will done, that the Jerusalem was rebuilt. And that is mainly what Ezra did, and returned to Jerusalem. But again, the remnant started to sin against him and intertwined with other people, that they took on their started to take on their idols and to serve them, such as what happened before the country was taken over captive. So that was one of the things that they fixed. Now moving on to the Book of Nehemiah. This is taken and done at the same time period as the Book of Ezra. Nehemiah is a man that was a cupbearer for the king in Cyrus, who was allowed to go and help rebuild the temple as well. So I read here a bit in Nehemiah 1, starting at verse 1. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. It came to pass in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, as I was at Shushan, the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came with men from Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped, who had survived the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the survivors who are left from the captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. When Nehemiah heard this, he was saddened by the hearing, and he eventually got permission to go back to the city, and he also helped to rebuild the walls and to let Jerusalem get restructured again. And just like in Ezra, Nehemiah also had a lot of opposition from people around, but with God's help and guidance, they did eventually get it rebuilt. And then they continued to deal with problems, but got back to working on serving God faithfully. And that is the bulk of Ezra and Nehemiah. They are a little bit shorter books, but they cover a fair amount of what went on in order to get back to the Promised Land. Now, the Old Testament and the New Testament as well, the books are not laid out chronologically, that they are not in order as in what happened in history. So after the books of Ezra and Nehemiah come Esther. And Esther takes place during part of the captivity of Israel when they were in the land of Babylon. And Esther is a woman that was brought up by her uncle, and she ended up being queen of the land. And during her time, the Jews were under a severe attack by a man named Haman. So I'm reading here in Esther 3, starting at verse 1. After After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes who were with him. And all the king's servants who were within the king's gate bowed and paid homage to Haman, for so the king had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow or pay homage. Then the king's servants, who were within the king's gate, said to Mordecai, "Why do you transgress the king's command?" Now it happened, when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them, that they told it to Haman, to see whether Mordecai's words would stand. For Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or pay him homage, Haman was filled with wrath, but he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had told him of the people of Mordecai. Instead, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews who were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, the people of Mordecai. Now, the first commandment that God gave his people is to love the Lord your God with all your heart. And the second is not to worship any other idols or other people. So, in observing this, Mordecai would not bow down to people and to worship them. So that is why of this. So Haman decided to destroy the Jews. However, it ended up backfiring on him. That ended up getting executed himself because of his thoughts. And Jews were able to win the day because of God's providence and help. So these three books, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther, are all shorter ones, but they still cover quite a bit, and I would suggest that, these are fairly easy to go through and to read them on your own. And the next entry that I will make for Preacher Life is after Esther, which is the Book of Job. And in Job, we get a lot of interesting things to talk about, and that will be next. So, thank you for watching and listening, but that is it for this week on Preacher Life. So, until next time, bye for now.